do not have a fancy ride in any way, shape, or form. This is going to be a real Uber Lyft situation for CC tomorrow. Are you going to sit in the front or the back, just out of curiosity?
Oh, boy.
If you sit in the back, that'd be amazing, actually.
I have to sit in the front.
I'm going to put the seat all the way back for you.
I can do that. I don't need you to do that.
I'm going to try to set it up perfectly prior to your arrival tomorrow.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you being considerate. I think that's over the top.
What, to put your seat back?
Yeah, you don't have to do all that.
Well, why not?
He's getting the car wash, CC. He's getting waters put in there and mints for you. He's giving you an optimal experience. I just want to know, with Rob flying out earlier now, are we not going to get any footage of this?
Yeah, we're going to have to figure that out.
I would really like to bear witness to this in some way, since I won't be there.
Yeah, I don't know how we're going to do that. We'll have to figure that out. Maybe Rob could set up like a live cam during this. It's filming us during the whole thing tomorrow en route to Wisconsin for the NFL draft. It's a couple of days away. Adam Schefter is going to join us in 15 minutes. He put out a great story yesterday at ESPN.com with all the latest draft nuggets and information. Does it once a year. And last year, if we remember, was the story where he tipped us off to the idea of Michael Penix Jr. potentially to the Atlanta Falcons, and obviously that came to fruition. Last night, the Knicks and Pistons. Pistons win that game. The series tied at 1 apiece. Clippers win behind 39 from Kawhi. They're now at 1 apiece. And tonight, we have 3 games in the NBA, including the Los Angeles Lakers and the Minnesota Timberwolves. And this is amazing that I cannot believe Nuno is asking this question of us. Although it does feel fair, in a game 2, is it possible that LeBron and Luka are facing a must-win in game 2 of the first round of the NBA playoffs? Is that possible?
You can't go down 0-2 in the series in both of those games that you lost at home. You can't do that. As a Lakers fan, I'm in full-fledged panic mode.
Already?
If that happens, yes. Right now, I'm trying to temper any panic level that we would have, just knowing how LeBron James typically operates in a 7-game series. The first game is a feel-out situation. Understand how the defenses are covering him, how they're going to cover Luka and the rest of his guys, and then he'll adjust accordingly. I have a hard time believing that game 2 for the Lakers is going to look like game 1, where they had no answers for what Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves were doing on both ends of the court.
Smalls? Is it a must-win?
Yes, definitely. Like Cece said, you can't go down 0-2 in the series, and especially after game 1 when, as Cece said, they had no answers for them, and Minnesota out-physicaled them. When J.J. Redick post-game is saying maybe mentally we were ready, but physically we weren't ready, if you go down 0-2 and the physicality is yet again a pervasive factor, and why? I don't have hope for the Lakers that they're going to be able to turn it around at that point. So why wouldn't tonight be a must-win?
So we live in a world of hyperbole and hypotheticals and exaggeration. That is the fun of talking sports and entertainment on a day-to-day basis. This initially felt like a conversation that was of that. You guys are making this very practical, that you do not believe that LeBron James and Luka have the capability at this point against that opponent to come back from 0-2? But you're going to tell me
that would mean that they'd have win 4 of the next 5. No, they're not going to do that. Not against these people. Not against the Minnesota Timberwolves. I just don't think they can. There are some things that the Timberwolves do, some issues that they present that the Lakers don't have a simple solve for. The front court size for the Minnesota Timberwolves with Rudy Gobert, Naz Reid, and Julius Randle. The Lakers don't have an answer for that. That's why they got killed on the boards in game 1. They don't. When Anthony Edwards is a distributor, the Lakers don't have an answer for that. They don't. I mean, my boy Nick Wright brought this up yesterday, but it bears repeating. Anthony Edwards, when he has 8 or more assists over the last 3 years, the Minnesota Timberwolves are 22-3. 22-3. When he has 8 or more assists. So when he gets it going, but also when he can facilitate those open threes, those perimeter shots for his guys, the Minnesota Timberwolves are a tough out. That's why they had 21 3-point makes in game 1. It was because AntMan had it going, but then also he got others going. He got others involved. Naz Reid had 6 threes. Julius Randle had 4 threes. You know what I mean? When those guys can get into a rhythm offensively, it only turns up the pressure on the opposite ends of the court. And I don't know that the Lakers have an answer for that. And conversely, the way that the Lakers played, yeah, Luka had 16 first-quarter points, but to what end? right? Like other guys for the Lakers didn't get involved. LeBron James had 19 points. Like you're just hoping that when Luka gets it going, LeBron can step in and do what he does, but then also they can get Austin Reeves going. The Lakers have to have their big three show up every single game in every playoff series. Because if they don't, if one of those guys has an off night scoring the basketball, there's nobody else on the roster that can pick up the slack.
All right, I need to update my stance on something. So a day ago, you can go back on the podcast and listen. Smalls and I sat here, and we agreed on something. We said that if the Los Angeles Lakers lose in the first round, it would be a disappointment for LeBron James, but not a disappointment for the Lakers organization because they've already won this year. Mm-hmm. By acquiring Luka, they are there's going to be a title team, and then there's like a 1B for the first time, I think, ever. The Lakers are like the second title team. Trading for Luka is like winning a title in some ways, right?
If he stays.
If he stays. Good caveat, Smalls. If he stays, you are correct on that. If they lose in 5 games or less, it's not only a failed year for LeBron, it's a failed year for the Lakers. You can't lose in 5 games or less. Like, we can't go from them as the 3 seed, favoring them to win this series, to then saying tonight is a must win, and if they lose, they're not going to win 4 or 5, which I know you're not saying they're going to lose in 5 games, but theoretically, I will have to change my stance. LeBron James and Luka cannot lose in 5 games or less in the first round. Cannot happen. I don't care if they were playing Oklahoma City in the first round. You can't have those 2 guys, Luka very much in his prime, LeBron's prime seemingly has lasted for 20 years. You can't lose in the first round in 5 games or less. No way. So I would change my stance, Smalls. I don't know if you would, but I would say that the Lakers season would be a failure in that scenario.
Yeah, we yesterday arrived at that conclusion that it would be holistically a win for the Lakers as a season because they acquired Luka, but if they lost in the first round, it's a big-time failure for the finite amount of time you have left to try to capitalize on the LeBron James era. However, we did also discuss if the Lakers were to get bounced in the first round, and what happened in game 1 was the pervasive theme throughout the series that shapes the way we discuss it. If the Lakers are completely out physicaled and they arrive in the series and they have no answers for anything, and we have questions after the series about JJ Redick as a coach in the playoffs and his ability to make adjustments and his ability to have his team ready for that moment, then yeah, the conversation shifts from disappointment, but we feel good about the future moving forward because of Luka and the way that extends the runway to, okay, let's drill down on this a little bit more and talk about if this was the last opportunity maybe they had to win with LeBron. And if so, how does that change the way that we actually do view that runway moving forward? And like I said, maybe we have some questions about JJ Redick, even though he's had a phenomenal first season. If the first round playoff matchup is really bad for him, that opens the door for more questions and concerns.
Yeah, I think it'd be an absolute disaster if the Lakers lost to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Period.
So 7 doesn't matter.
Full stop. Mm-hmm. Disaster for the Lakers.
Because
you have the best 2 players on the court on any given night in LeBron James and Luka Doncic. And if that's not good enough to get you out of the first round of the playoffs, then there've got to be some serious questions about the viability of the franchise contending at a championship level long term, just knowing where LeBron James is at in his career. Right? We already assign a certain level of success to the Lakers over the next decade because we're assuming that Luka Doncic is going to stay.
Yeah.
But what happens if you have an earlier than expected playoff exit? A part of what happens this postseason is the sales pitch on why Luka should sign up to be a Laker for the rest of his career. And if it ends in disaster with the Lakers getting smoked by the Minnesota Timberwolves, then yeah, that's a problem in terms of the looming question around whether or not he's going to stay. I mean, it's not like Luka has this huge investment in the LA Lakers. The Lakers have an investment in him, but it's not the other way around. It's not reciprocal. We know how Luka felt attached to the Dallas Mavericks. He don't feel attached to the Lakers like that.
No.
So the question then becomes, if you have an earlier than expected playoff loss, well, how does Luka view the Lakers in terms of being able to take advantage of the heart of his prime?
Such a unique situation because I do agree with you that the Lakers are absolutely in sales mode. They have to do everything in their power to keep Luka long term. That said, even if he leaves after next season, I still think it was a great deal for them. It's absolutely worth the risk 100 times out of 100 with what they gave up or the lack of what they gave up.
Yeah.
Anthony Davis, the latter part of his career. And you rolled the dice to try to have the life past LeBron.
Yes, and the fact remains that you weren't going to win a title
Correct.
with Anthony Davis.
Correct. Absolutely
so we just started having the conversation about winning a title because Luka Doncic arrived.
The upside is absolutely enormous.
Yeah.
The downside gets them back to where they would have been anyway. Honestly, right? Like, if you look at it, it's like, okay, so LeBron's the guy. Is he still going to play? Is he not going to play? Who's the Robin to his Batman? The downside is not, it's great, but it just takes them back to where they were anyway.
But I'm curious if that ends up being the case, if the Lakers get bounced by the Timberwolves, if Luka doesn't stay beyond next season, then what happens in terms of how we grade this trade with the Dallas Mavericks? Like, usually there's a winner, usually there's a loser. Sometimes you get the win-win. Is this the rare instance where it's lose-lose?
No, because I still think the Lakers end up winning even if he leaves. The Mavs end up losing even if he leaves the Lakers. I think what'll be interesting.
Really?
Yes. I think what'll be interesting is playing the results
Really?
of where does he go. Like, if he goes to San Antonio and he's like, I want to play with Wemby. And you're like, oh, what?
Oh,
you went
man.
back to Texas? Or I want to play with the young Rockets guys. I mean, think about that scenario if he wants to go back there. All right, Adam Schefter is going to join us. We're a few days away from the NFL draft, which means we got to get pumped up with GNC here, CC.
Sao lại không phải cái bài hát nữa, sao tao bảo tao nghe nhạc.
Quay rồi.
Đừng quên gì vậy.
Chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Thì hôm nay mình sẽ tiếp tục hướng dẫn các bạn làm vòng. Và hôm nay của mình sẽ có tiêu đề là quả bom. Mọi người, hôm nay vòng của mình sẽ có tiêu đề là thuốc nổ. Bây giờ mình bắt đầu làm nha.
Anh đã lớn hơn thế nhiều. Đừng hẹn gặp lại thứ hai, em sẽ mang đi về. Đó, lần cuối cùng mà mình nhìn thấy nhau, cái đoạn trước đấy nhé, đó là lần cuối cùng mà mình nhìn thấy nhau, xa lạ và rời thang máy. Đến bây giờ anh vẫn chưa thể nào quên được hết khoảng thời gian đấy.